A 6-year-old with the mind of a genius is growing up in a home that sees her as nothing but a burden. Just when things can't get worse, she's shipped off to a school run by a principal who rules through pure terror. But buried inside this small, quiet girl is a force nobody saw coming. And once her rage awakens it, every adult who ever dismissed her is about to learn exactly who they were dealing with. The movie begins inside a hospital room where a couple named Harry and Zinnia have just had their second child. Now, most people would call this a joyful moment. Not these two. While the nurses hand them their newborn daughter, Harry is already complaining about the medical bill, and Zinnia can barely hide her irritation that she even has to be there. They call the baby Matilda, almost as an afterthought. It gets worse. When it's finally time to take the baby home, Harry doesn't even bother strapping her in properly. He just tosses the basket into the back of the car like a bag of groceries. And when the family finally pulls into the driveway, they walk into the house and completely forget their newborn is still sitting in the car. That single detail tells you everything you need to know about the family Matilda was born into. We quickly learn that the Wormwoods aren't just careless. They're loud, self-obsessed, and allergic to honesty. Money and television matter to them far more than their own daughter ever will. And Matilda, from the very start, is different. As a baby, she once got hold of a bowl of spinach and used it to smear her own name across the counter. Her mother wiped it away without a second glance, never realizing her infant daughter had just written her first word. By age 2, while other toddlers are still being spoon-fed, Matilda has already taught herself to dress, bathe, and take care of her own basic needs. Nobody taught her. She simply had no other choice. Every weekday, the same pattern repeats. Michael, her older brother, heads off to school. Harry disappears to his shady used car lot. Zinnia leaves for hours of bingo with her friends. And Matilda? She's left completely alone in an empty house. A nightmare for most toddlers, but for her, it becomes an opportunity. She teaches herself to cook, tossing out the sad canned soup her mother leaves behind in favor of homemade pancakes she makes from scratch. By the time she's 4 years old, she's devoured every newspaper and magazine in the house. Starving for something new to read, she asks her father for a single book. Just one. Harry looks at her like she's speaking another language. Why would anyone need a book when there's a television sitting right there? He shuts her down instantly. That rejection becomes a turning point. Matilda realizes, right then, that if she's waiting on her parents for anything, she'll be waiting forever. So she stops waiting. The next day, she flips through the phone book, finds the address of the local library, and walks there completely by herself. Inside, she meets a kind librarian named Mrs. Phelps, who's stunned to see a child this young wandering in alone. She tries to steer Matilda toward the picture books. Matilda politely declines. She already knows exactly what she wants. What follows is one of the most heartwarming stretches of the film. Every single day her mother is out at bingo, Matilda sneaks off to that library and works her way through history books, novels, and stories filled with the kind of brave, decent people who simply don't exist in her own home. Mrs. Phelps watches in disbelief as this tiny girl devours books meant for adults twice her age. Eventually, she gives Matilda her own library card so she doesn't have to keep coming back and forth, and Matilda starts hauling stacks of books home in a little wagon. Books become her real family, her real education. And by the time she turns 6, she's developed a mind sharper than most grown adults, and her own parents haven't even noticed she can read. One day, Harry storms into her room and finds books piled everywhere. Instead of being amazed, he accuses her of lying, insisting a 4-year-old couldn't possibly read like this. Matilda calmly corrects him. She's not 4. She just turned 6, and she's supposed to be in school already. Harry drags her downstairs and demands Zinnia confirm her age. Zinnia guesses 4 too. Neither of her parents can even remember how old their own daughter is. Matilda explains, again, that she turned 6 back in August, and that she's asked repeatedly to be enrolled in school. Harry refuses. He needs her at home to accept deliveries for his business. His solution? Sit down, shut up, and watch TV like a normal kid. Heartbroken, Matilda heads back to her room, only for her brother Michael to throw candy at her and mock her on the way. She shuts the door and cries. Not because she's weak, but because she's desperate for just one person, like the heroes in her books, to actually show up for her. She has no idea that she's about to discover something no book ever prepared her for. One night, Harry comes home thrilled after a huge sales day. He hands Michael a stack of numbers and asks him to calculate the day's profit, hoping to groom his son to eventually take over the business. Michael struggles. From across the room, Without even looking twice, Matilda blurts out the exact correct total. Harry checks. She's right. But instead of pride, he feels threatened. He accuses her of cheating, insisting there's no way a little girl could outmath him. Matilda insists she simply did the math in her head. He threatens to punish her for lying, which, considering his entire business runs on lies, is more than a little ironic. That's the moment Matilda decides. If adults are going to punish children for no reason, maybe it's time somebody punished the adults for a change. The next morning, she quietly swaps her father's hair tonic with her mother's industrial-strength blonde hair dye. Harry, completely unaware, slicks it into his hair before heading to work, and discovers in the mirror that his dark hair has turned bright, blinding blonde. He panics. He screams. He nearly faints. Matilda watches from the hallway, doing everything she can not to laugh out loud. Later, Harry drags Michael and Matilda to his used car lot, determined to teach his son the family business. What we don't know yet is that two FBI agents, Bill and Bob, are parked across the street, quietly building a case against him. Inside the garage, Harry proudly demonstrates his tricks of the trade. Gluing on bumpers that will fall off within days, stuffing sawdust into damaged transmissions to mask the grinding noise just long enough to make a sale, and rolling back odometers to make junk cars look brand new. Matilda tells him flatly that what he's doing is illegal and dangerous. Harry doesn't even try to deny it. In his mind, nobody gets rich playing fair. He tells her she's stupid, and that he's smarter simply because he's bigger, older, and richer. Matilda knows none of that actually makes him right. While he's distracted, she slips a little more superglue inside the hat he's been using to hide his ruined blonde hair. That night, at a restaurant celebrating one of Zinnia's bingo wins, Zinnia insists Harry take his hat off at the table. When she yanks it, it doesn't budge. It's fused to his scalp. Harry screams. Zinnia pulls harder. Chairs topple. Tables collapse. The entire restaurant watches the Wormwood family implode in real time. Back home, Zinnia has to hack most of the hat off with scissors, leaving patches still glued to Harry's head. Matilda, quietly, could not be happier with herself. That evening, the family gathers, as always, in front of the TV. Matilda tries to read quietly nearby. Harry orders her to shut the book and watch television like everyone else. She refuses. She just wants to finish her chapter. Furious, Harry snatches the book from her hands and rips it apart in front of her, forcing her to face the screen. This isn't just a torn book to Matilda. That library was the one place in her life where she was treated with respect. Something inside her finally snaps. She stares at the television, and without touching it, the picture starts to distort. The screen shakes violently. Electricity crackles, and the television explodes right in front of the family's eyes. Everyone jumps back in shock. Nobody can explain what just happened. Not even Matilda. Was it an accident? Coincidence? Or something buried deep inside her mind that she never knew was there? The very next day, a terrifying woman named Agatha Trunchbull walks into Harry's dealership looking for a cheap, reliable car. She's the principal of Cruncham Hall Elementary, and she's more than happy to tell Harry that her entire philosophy of education is built on fear. Harry is instantly a fan. When Trunchbull asks about his kids, Harry introduces Michael proudly as his son, and dismisses Matilda as a mistake. Then he strikes a deal, a discounted car in exchange for enrolling Matilda in Trunchbull's school. When Harry tells Matilda she's finally getting to go to school, she's overjoyed. She pictures flowers, a playground, kind teachers. What she gets instead is a building that looks more like a prison than a school. Still, to Matilda, any school is better than none. Then Trunchbull steps outside, and every single child goes silent. She strides through the yard carrying a riding crop, treating the students like soldiers under her command, dishing out punishment for the smallest offenses. Two girls, Lavender and Hortensia, quickly warn Matilda that ordinary detention is nothing compared to what Trunchbull is really capable of. They tell her about a boy who was hurled through a window for eating candy during class. They tell her about the chokey, a torture closet lined with broken glass and rusted nails, where Trunchbull locks kids for entire days. Before Matilda can even process this, Trunchbull spots a girl named Amanda Thripp wearing pigtails. She despises the hairstyle. She grabs Amanda by the braids, spins her like an Olympic hammer thrower, and launches her clear over the school fence. The other kids don't even flinch. They've clearly seen this before, and they casually critique her throwing form as the girl sails through the air. Once inside her actual classroom, Matilda meets her teacher, Miss Honey, soft-spoken, patient, and the exact opposite of Trunchbull in every way. During a math lesson, she poses a tough multiplication problem to the class. Matilda answers instantly. Assuming she got lucky, Miss Honey keeps pushing harder questions. Matilda solves every single one without hesitation, and it becomes clear she's reading and comprehending material years beyond her age. Recognizing she's teaching a genuine prodigy, Miss Honey goes straight to Trunchbull to request Matilda be moved to a higher grade. Trunchbull refuses outright. Harry has already poisoned the well, telling her Matilda is a troublemaker and a liar. When Miss Honey keeps pushing, Trunchbull threatens to throw Matilda straight into the chokey. That night, Miss Honey shows up at the Wormwood house herself. Harry immediately assumes Matilda's done something wrong and starts yelling before Miss Honey can even explain. She stops him cold and tells them their daughter is extraordinarily gifted. With the right support, she could be college-ready within just a few years. The Wormwoods couldn't care less. Zinnia believes looks and popularity matter more than brains. Harry insists college graduates just end up working for guys like him. Before leaving, Miss Honey hands Matilda another book, a small act of kindness that means more to her than her parents will ever understand. Not long after, Trunchbull gathers the entire school because a boy named Bruce supposedly stole a slice of her private chocolate cake. Instead of a normal punishment, she has the school cook wheel out an enormous cake and forces Bruce to eat every last bite in front of everyone, expecting him to break down in humiliation. Instead, something incredible happens. Bruce discovers the cake is actually delicious, and as he pushes through it, sick and exhausted, the entire student body starts cheering him on, led by Matilda. What was supposed to be public humiliation turns into a full-blown celebration when Bruce finishes every crumb. Trunchbull, enraged that her punishment backfired, smashes the empty plate over his head and punishes the entire school with extra hours and dictionary copying, threatening the chokey for anyone who complains. That same night, Matilda notices two men watching her house, the same FBI agents from the car lot. She warns her parents they're investigating Harry. Harry laughs it off, convinced they're just boat salesmen. The next day, while playing outside with friends, Matilda's peace is interrupted again. Trunchbull's newly bought car has already broken down, and since Matilda is Harry's daughter, Trunchbull blames her and throws her into the chokey. While she's locked away, a friend slips a small newt into Trunchbull's water pitcher as revenge. Miss Honey manages to free Matilda just before Trunchbull begins her classroom inspection. Trunchbull pours herself a glass of water, and the newt drops straight into it. Convinced it's a poisonous snake, she blames Matilda immediately. Matilda swears she's innocent, but Trunchbull doesn't care about facts. She's bigger, so she's right. End of discussion. Something inside Matilda ignites. She locks her eyes on the glass. It slides across the desk on its own and tips directly onto Trunchbull, sending the terrified principal jumping and screaming while the whole class erupts in laughter. Now Matilda knows for certain, the exploding television wasn't a fluke. She really can move things with her mind. Afterward, she tries to demonstrate it for Miss Honey, but calm and steady, nothing happens. Her power, it seems, only answers to rage. Walking home together, they pass a large, eerie house. It turns out to belong to Trunchbull, and it used to belong to Miss Honey's family. She reveals a painful secret. Her mother died when she was very young, and her father invited his stepsister, Agatha Trunchbull, to help raise her. Trunchbull was vicious to her from day one. Years later, her father died suddenly, ruled a suicide, a story Miss Honey never believed. After his death, Trunchbull seized the house, the inheritance, everything. Even after Miss Honey escaped into a life of teaching, Trunchbull still drains most of her paycheck, claiming she's owed for years of raising her. Matilda immediately suspects something darker, that Trunchbull may have had a hand in her father's death. Miss Honey has no proof, but admits she's feared exactly that for years. Determined to help, Matilda convinces a reluctant Miss Honey to sneak into the house to reclaim a few pieces of her childhood. A box of chocolates from her father, old photographs, and a porcelain-faced doll her mother once gave her. Just as they're about to leave, Trunchbull's car breaks down outside, forcing her back into the house early. She notices the chocolate box has been moved and realizes someone's inside. What follows is a tense, room-by-room game of cat and mouse, hiding under furniture, slipping through doors, barely escaping detection. Until they finally squeeze out through a basement window and vanish into the trees outside. Miss Honey makes Matilda promise never to go back. Trunchbull is far too dangerous, and next time, they might not get out. Back home, Matilda finds her mother chatting away with the FBI agents, completely unaware of who they are. Harry storms in, realizes exactly who they are, and throws them out. When Matilda tries to warn her parents one more time, Harry explodes at her. And this time, Matilda's anger explodes right back. She glares at the front door. It slams shut and locks itself before Harry can even reach it. There's no more doubt now. This is real. And Matilda starts practicing. At first, she can only shift small objects, and only when her anger is at its peak. So she starts replaying every cruel moment, every insult, every torn book, every humiliation, to fuel her ability. Soon she's levitating spoons, cards, furniture, entire stacks of books, dancing through the air around her bedroom like nothing has ever felt this good. For the very first time, Matilda has something that belongs entirely to her, something nobody can rip away. Not long after, she catches the FBI agents illegally sneaking into Harry's garage without a warrant, filming boxes of stolen parts. She warns them that an illegal search could throw out their entire case. They dismiss her, and even threaten that Harry could go to prison, leaving her to rot in an orphanage. Rather than argue, Matilda uses her powers to send their car rolling down the hill. While they chase after it, she swipes their evidence tape and destroys it. Not because she wants to protect her father, but because she's giving her family one last chance to change before it's too late. Then she turns her full attention to the real monster in her life, Agatha Trunchbull. That night, Matilda sneaks back to Trunchbull's house alone. From the roof, she uses her telekinesis to open windows and slip inside, without ever stepping through a door, quietly recovering Miss Honey's doll and her father's chocolates. But she doesn't stop there. She decides it's time to terrify the woman who's terrorized everyone else her whole life. Clocks move on their own. Lights flicker. Windows swing open and shut. Trunchbull's trophies come crashing through the house. Matilda hurls Trunchbull's own portrait into the fireplace, and sends the portrait of Miss Honey's late father floating gently downstairs to hang back on the wall. Convinced the ghost of Magnus has returned for revenge, Trunchbull bolts for her car in a panic, but not before spotting a stray ribbon from Matilda's hair. She sniffs it, and slowly begins to suspect the truth. This wasn't a ghost. It was a child. The next morning, Matilda gives Miss Honey back her doll and chocolates. Miss Honey is horrified. She made her promise never to return. Matilda insists she never actually went inside. She used her power from a distance the whole time. To prove it, she lifts a water pitcher into midair right in front of her teacher's eyes. There's no more denying it now. Miss Honey finally believes. Before they can process any of it, Trunchbull bursts into the classroom holding the ribbon, convinced one of the students broke into her house. She lines the children up and begins interrogating them one by one, her focus locking onto Matilda. But Matilda already has a plan. She remembers something crucial, Magnus' private pet name for his daughter, Bumblebee, and his habit of calling Trunchbull only by her first name, Agatha. As Trunchbull threatens the class, a stick of chalk lifts off the tray by itself and begins writing across the blackboard. A message claiming to be from Magnus himself, ordering Agatha to return everything she stole to his little Bumblebee, or suffer the same fate he did. Trunchbull turns white as a sheet. Nobody could know those names except Magnus. As the chalk flies toward her and the windows and blinds slam open and shut around the room, Trunchbull becomes convinced his ghost is finally here to punish her. She lashes out, trying to fight back, but Matilda takes full control, spinning her on the classroom globe, hurling her across the room, shielding every child in her path. When Trunchbull grabs Lavender and tries to throw her the way she threw Amanda, Matilda catches the girl in midair and sets her gently down. In that instant, every student in the room realizes something they never thought possible. Trunchbull can be beaten. Lunchboxes fly open. Food, water, and anything else within reach go flying straight at her. Trunchbull flees down the hallway as students from every classroom join the uprising. Bruce delivers the final blow, smashing chocolate cake directly into her face. Broken and humiliated, Trunchbull sprints to her car and drives away, and is never seen again. Miss Honey moves back into her childhood home, her father's money and property finally restored to her. Matilda begins spending nearly all her free time there, and for the first time in either of their lives, they experience what an actual peaceful home feels like. Then, without warning, Zinnia shows up and orders Matilda into the car. The FBI finally has enough to arrest Harry, and the Wormwoods are fleeing the country for Guam before agents can catch them. Matilda refuses to go. She loves her school. She loves Miss Honey. She's finally found the life she's always wanted. Zinnia insists no one could ever want a difficult child like her, and Miss Honey steps forward and says the exact opposite. She calls Matilda extraordinary. She tells her, plainly, that she loves her. Matilda asks Miss Honey to adopt her on the spot. Harry claims there's no time for paperwork, but Matilda has already prepared everything, copying the legal forms from a library book weeks in advance. All that's left is a signature. For one brief moment, Zinnia finally admits something true. She never understood her daughter, not even a little. And then, maybe for the only time in their entire lives, Harry and Zinnia do something that actually benefits Matilda. They sign the papers and let her go. As the sirens close in behind them, the wormwoods speed off toward the airport, leaving their daughter behind for good. Miss Honey becomes the new principal of Trunchbull, transforming it from a place of fear into a place where kids are finally allowed to learn without being afraid. At home, she and Matilda read together, laughed together, and build the kind of quiet, loving family Matilda spent her entire life dreaming about. And in the final moments of the film, we see that even though Matilda no longer needs her powers to protect herself, she never really loses them. One quiet night, lying in bed, she simply lifts a book off the shelf with her mind and lets it float gently into her hands. Because in the end, both Matilda and Miss Honey finally get the one thing they'd always wanted, a family that actually chose them. And that's the full story of Matilda. Proof that even when the whole world underestimates you, the right kind of anger, the right kind of courage, and one person who actually believes in you can change absolutely everything. If this breakdown kept you hooked from start to finish, do yourself a favor and hit that subscribe button right now, because if you don't, you're going to miss the next deep dive, and trust me, you don't want to be the person scrolling through your feed later wondering why you never got notified. Don't let that be you. And before you go, drop a comment below and tell me, if you had Matilda's powers for just one day, what's the first thing you'd do with them? I read every single comment, so don't be shy. See you in the next one.